As the new CEO of Startup Ireland, can you tell me about the objectives of Startup Ireland?
Okay, it's a very simple objective to make Ireland a global startup hub by 2020. We call it our Vision 2020. And what we want to see is Ireland an international destination for startups who want to scale up and take on the world. And we see that as having great spillover benefits for indigenous startups. It raises the playing field for everybody who wants to engage in entrepreneurship in Ireland.
Now, the current startup scene in Ireland, you guys are really going to add fuel to the fire in October with a 5-day event in 5 cities. Can you tell me about how that's going to happen and what kind of things we can expect from that?
So what we see in the moment in Ireland is a lot of activity happening and a certain degree of noise and a bit of fragmentation. So the goal with the startup gathering is to bring together a lot of the great events that happen that are spread out into a really focused 5 days of events. So it's 5 days, 5 cities, 5 industries. Those cities are Dublin, Cork, Limerick, Galway and Waterford. Those industries are those where we really have strength in depth and we can build international clusters in each city, be it around ICT, agri-food, agri-tech, biopharma, medical devices or business services. And the theme of the startup gathering will be Start, Scale, Succeed from Ireland.
Now, the thing is, at the moment, there's a great energy around startups at the moment. It's fueled largely by the story of Silicon Valley and the big companies that have emerged. And we're seeing a lot of great success stories on our own home turf as well. And great examples include the Collison brothers, who are based in Silicon Valley. But there's a danger there that almost makes it look easy, that starting a company is easy. It's not easy. In terms of the current environment and the current culture, what kind of encouragement on one front would you like to give people who like to start companies, but at the same time guidance you'd like to give them as well in terms of, it's a long road?
Yeah, so I suppose what you say is very true. What we would like to see is certainly more people starting, but it is quite easy to start in Ireland. We're one of the best countries in the world in which to start, but to scale, that's an entirely different challenge. So what are the challenges to scaling from an early stage startup? Access to funding is critical. Access to your first key customers is critical. And for a lot of Irish startups, they have to travel abroad to get access to the big customers, be it London or over to the States. And then when they have actually secured the first number of customers and they're getting traction, then getting a 2 to 5 million round of investment is a real challenge at the moment within Ireland. So our goal within the gradual development of Ireland as a global startup hub is to see more people engaging in entrepreneurship, more effective teams forming at the earliest possible stage, being able to access their customers within Ireland, so the multinationals have a key role to play in that. We've got a fantastic range of multinationals in Ireland, and we need them to develop effective interfaces for startups so they don't have to travel to the States in order to get the first serious traction. And then that in of itself will create the conditions where a lot more risk money is available from VCs to our startups.
Now, one of the things I hear a lot about lately is in the UK, particularly Irish startups themselves are telling me about things like EIS schemes. I know in a new action plan for jobs, the government made mention of a new thing called the Sure Tax Initiative, which we don't know all the details of yet. But in terms of more practical measures to kind of not only to secure VC, but also just to keep going and get an initial idea off the ground. What are other countries doing better? Like we hear a lot about Israel, for example, succeeding in getting lots of funding every week, for example. Now you could say that a lot of that's down to military spend and culture, but in reality we do have a bonus, as you point out, in the multinationals. What are the pieces we need to be putting in place to ensure that companies can stay funded?
So, it's always easy to attract funding when you have a successful business and you've actually got traction. So, an excessive focus on access to risk capital early in the process isn't good. It's best to bootstrap and, the family and friends round. So we need early stage seed capital investment to be there in much greater volume than it currently is. But then as you progress along, yes, you're right, we are at a competitive disadvantage to the UK, where they've got entrepreneur relief schemes, which are much more effective. They've got access to seed capital tax structures, which are much more effective. And the challenge we face at the moment in the south is that some entrepreneurs, they're registered for tax in the north and they actually run their businesses in the south. So, attracting international entrepreneurial talent to Ireland is going to be a challenge as long as the fiscal environment, be it our capital gains tax rates or reinvestment reliefs, are not as favourable to as they are in the UK. So that's certainly one aspect to it. But then certainly the next aspect to it is developing the whole ecosystem, be it the professional service providers, be it the risk capital, be it the access to the multinationals, and be it access also to more talent. So breakouts, having the kind of a senior person from a Google or a Microsoft, and a senior person from an Accenture or PwC coming together to form a really high impact startup. They're the ones who have the effective network, they've solved big issues for corporates, and they can go on to scale up very rapidly out of Ireland. That's something that would be fantastic to see.
One of the things I love when I travel the world is when I see Irish entrepreneurs in action in other countries, and they've got great drive and they're great at selling, but I often feel that that's a journey that got them to that point. Do we early enough in education teach people to be entrepreneurial in Ireland? Do you think there's something that Startup Ireland has a role to play in, maybe working with transition year students and helping them to become more entrepreneurial as a culture?
Absolutely, John. Within Ireland, we often value those who've left and proved themselves abroad more effectively than we do at home. And that's certainly one of our motivations within Startup Ireland, is to bring about culture change, whereby entrepreneurship is seen as a viable career choice. So I went to the Careers Guidance Association's annual conference about a year ago, and I talked about, where is entrepreneurship in the list of career options? And they said, well, it's not currently there. You've got the legal, you've got the accountancy options, but at the moment, entrepreneurship isn't seen as a viable career choice. Our goal is to use things like the Startup Gathering to change that and make entrepreneurship a choice that a lot more students consider as viable.